Hello everyone, this is part 5 of What If Naruto and Hinata Had a Kid, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. It's getting late, we should be going. Hinata stood and gave a small stretch. She had lost track of how long she had been at Sakura's apartment. During the time, Yumi had taken a full nap and had even waken up and was now watching cartoons on the sofa drinking juice while the women continued to talk. It's not that late, Sakura said, standing up as well, though having some difficulty. Hinata suppressed a giggle. She knew all too well what that was like. She turned her attention to her daughter, who was wrapped up in the afternoon cartoon. Yumi, you ready to go? Come say bye to Sakura. We going home? Yumi asked, standing up, bringing her drink to the table. Yes, it's lunchtime. Are we going to come back? Of course, but we should go now, it's getting late. Accepting her mother's order, Yumi reached up to the pink-haired woman for a goodbye hug. Bye Sakura. Bye Yumi, take care of your mother, okay? Why? Is she not well? Yumi looked confused, but Sakura only giggled and patted the girl's head. See you soon then, she said, turning to her dark-haired friend. Stay in town and don't disappear again. Hinata said in a light huff. Clearly she had yet to completely forgive one of her best friends for that. Mission or not, it wasn't right for a pregnant woman to disappear for 6 months with no word. I'm off duty for the next several months and I would like some company. Can I come to Sakura's house? Yumi asked, ending the friendly call before it began. If your mother says it's okay. Sakura answered. We'll be back then, come on Yumi. Hinata took her daughter's hand and led her out the door. They got one last look at the pregnant pink-haired woman before the door was shut behind them. Hinata turned to her daughter walking next to her, their hands still tightly grasped. What do you want for lunch, Yumi? Ramen. Hinata smiled wide and even laughed at such an outburst. If her father were here, he would be bouncing off the walls with pride. Ramen it is. Funny how it felt so awkward to be sitting here now, when she was here just a few weeks ago, desperately doing everything in her power to stay. What was once such a warm and welcoming bed and smell now seemed a bit foreign to her. This was the only place and the last place she wanted to be right now. She should be back at Sakura's, prying her for information on what Tenten said, but she couldn't find the strength to leave now. Her clothes, which were now wet with melted snow and ice, lay on the floor next to his bed, while she was wrapped up in a pair of shorts and shirt that fit like a few sizes too big. Hinata pulled the warm blanket over her, pulled her bare legs under her as if to hide herself away and perhaps maybe even disappear. She heard his mumbled conversation in the kitchen just a few steps away. She caught small words such as, "Don't worry," and, "I know," being repeated, but she didn't care to really hear the conversation. She was still trying to figure out why she had let him drag her here when she had been so upset with him just minutes before. She even had half a mind to really just get up and leave, wet clothes and all, but then she would be cold in the snow again, and right now she was so very warm. She heard him say goodbye and hang up his phone. She then heard some moving around in the kitchen before she heard the footsteps get closer. He pulled a chair and sat down across from her, handing her a warm cup of tea. She didn't really want it, but she didn't refuse it. She stared at his feet. Why wasn't he sitting next to her like he always did? Why didn't he hold her like he always did when she was upset? She didn't really want an answer to those questions though, no matter how much they bugged her. Why were you running out in the snow like that, Hinata? He asked. His voice was kind, but it had a harsh, almost scolding undertone. It made her shoulders shrink back into the blanket a little. Why did she suddenly feel so guilty for doing that? Didn't she need it at the time? I just needed some air, she replied softly, watching her eyes reflect in her cup of tea. Sakura and Tenten got worried about you. He started, clearly very unsure of how to approach the elephant in the room. I had to tell her over and over you were okay. I mean, you can't really run around like that, can you? She didn't answer that question. Suddenly it was hard to really speak. I don't know much about that stuff. But I think you're supposed to take it easy, you know. And it was really cold outside, and you didn't have a jacket. What if you caught cold or something, or even worse? We'd all be really worried about you. Naruto, she cut him off before he could ramble anymore. She didn't meet those magnificent eyes of blue and burned through her. If you don't want, I won't force you to, I can do it myself. What are talking about? He sounded generally confused, and when she finally looked at him, he looked just the same. Naruto, you don't have to stay with me. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but somehow he heard her. You mean run away? He said, almost shocked by her. Well, wasn't that what he did when she told him? Didn't he just run out on her and leave her to dwell and think all alone, and didn't even bother to call? When she didn't respond, he spoke again. Hinata, I would never do that to you, I can't just run away. He looked somewhat amused by this. Just what was so amusing? Did she miss something? But you just left, she said, her voice so small. Why did her hands feel so cold when the cup was so warm? I needed to think. I got scared, you know. I know, I'm scared too. Have you really thought about this? He asked, his voice suddenly very serious again. She didn't like it when he sounded so serious. It wasn't him, it didn't fit him. Yes, I mean not just that you know, I mean about everything. Not just about your father, I mean what about a place to live? What about income? How to support it? I wouldn't stop working if that's what you mean. There are still plenty of things for me to do even with a child. Just because I would have to stop being a ninja, wait, would she really have to stop completely? She had never really heard of it, she had never really thought of it, but come to think of it, can you still be a ninja and have a child? How did that work? Not just that, I mean what about pay? A ninja can live a decent life, but we make just enough to survive most of the time, and that depends on missions. I'm sure the office work is much different as well. And what about a place to live? I hadn't gotten that far. She admitted, shying away from his intense gaze again. She didn't need to be reminded how irresponsible she was beginning to look. You need to think about those things too. I know telling your father scares you. But Hinata, you're going to tell him once. This baby will be with you for life, unless you choose otherwise. Choose otherwise. Yes, that was still an option. Given, she hadn't really given that choice much thought at all, but it was still there. Something she couldn't completely rule out just yet. And option is an option. What do you think? She asked, but still didn't meet his eyes. He deserved as much input as she did. After all, she didn't exactly do this on her own in the first place. Well, what do you think I should do, Naruto? Should I keep it? All this thinking was making her brain tired. She needed some clarity. She needed him to tell her what to do, and she'd do it. Hinata, the decision is really yours to make, he said, his voice betraying his cool facade and cracking, showing how uncomfortable this was really making him. It's your child too, she pointed out and looked at him. She saw his eyes shift guiltily and then looked to the ground for a long moment. There was a thick silence in the room. A tension that had been there was suddenly very clear to both of them. It was suffocating her again. The snow felt like such a welcome to her again. And then, after the cup in her hands had cooled down from its heat it once had, he spoke. I do want this, Hinata. She stopped breathing. I mean, I do someday. I want to be with you, I want to have a family, a real family, and I want it to be with you. But right now it doesn't fit. Because of my family. No more than that. Honestly, I don't really care too much for your family, I never really did. I mean about living a comfortable life, we couldn't make that. I don't get enough even on those A or S class missions. I do want this someday, when we're ready and we can handle it. So then you think I shouldn't keep it? She asked. If he wanted it, she would do it. Maybe it was just the smarter choice between the two. Naruto had a point. She would tell her father once, but this child would be there forever. She owed it to him or her to have the best life possible. And maybe she really couldn't do that at 17 just yet. I don't know, he stammered out, and they both avoided each other's eyes. Each hoping the other would have the answer to solve this. There was that silence again. She looked at the floor, huddled in that thick warm blanket. Her tea had gotten cold. No matter, she didn't want it in the first place. Her mind began to race. She thought back on the last few days. Sakura telling her the news, hiding and then being discovered by the Hokage, hiding at Sakura's, Naruto finding her. Everything was just all a blur now. It felt like it happened so long ago, but just those few days seemed to completely warp her entire life. Even if she did get rid of it, it's not like things would ever go back to normal now. Sakura would know about it, and even though Hinata didn't know Sakura's personal view on that subject, she was sure she wouldn't be regarded with enthusiasm from the woman. Not to mention everyone else. What if everyone found out what she did? What would they think? Would they say anything, or would it be the taboo skeleton in the closet no one spoke about? And what about him? What about her and Naruto? Already it felt like their relationship was crumbling. What she held dear for so long seemed to be slipping through her fingers so fast it was making her head spin. If she went through with it, would they drift apart, and would Naruto eventually leave her like she feared? And if she went through with an abortion, would he stay by her side and then they would slowly drift apart just like they are now? Would she lose him for good no matter what choice she chose? Somehow, the thought of losing him hurt her more than the thought of giving up the child inside her. She didn't even realize she was really crying until she sniffled and had to whip away the tears to see clearly. Hinata, his voice sounded worried, almost frantic. Don't cry, I didn't mean to make you cry. He rushed to her and finally his hands were on her. She felt his strong hands she loved so much on her shoulders. She dived into his chest without thinking twice. She inhaled his smell, ready to get lost in his warmth she missed so much, his warmth she could stand to see walk away from her. Hinata. He was getting worried. He hated it when she cried. He hated it even more when she cried, and he didn't know why or how to fix it. So he sat there kneeling next to her, wrapping her in his arms and letting her cry. She cried for a few moments, letting the hurt and confusion spill out of her before she pulled herself together again. I'm sorry, Naruto, I'm just so confused and scared about all this. I don't know what to do. When he didn't respond, she continued. Naruto, if you want me to get rid of it, I'll. No, Hinata. He cut her off and pulled her away from him to finally really look in her tear-stained eyes. I don't want you to get rid of it. It's my child too. I just want you to really think about your decision. But it's yours too. But you're its mother, you have the finale say. She looked at him for a long time before nodding her agreement to his words. They didn't say anything after that. Instead, they settled down on his bed and snuggled. They held each other long after sundown and into the night. She fell asleep still in his arms, just like last time. In this same spot, always in this perfect spot of hers, she snuggled closer to him before she drifted off completely. She could never let him go. The next morning she was remarkably well rested. She turned over to find the warm body next to her. She snuggled into his arms again and breathed in his scent. He warped his arms around her and rested his chin on the top of her head. How could she ever think he would leave her? Sakura called this morning. She did. When did that happen? She never heard the phone ring. MMHMM. He said lazily. She didn't have to look up to know his eyes were still closed and he just wanted to go back to sleep. Is everything okay? She was worried where you went. Hinata was quiet for a moment. She had just ran out on Sakura like that. It was unfair to her considering she had been so nice to her. I don't know if I want to go back. She voiced aloud into his chest. You can stay here, he suggested, stroking her back. His voice sent chills up her spine so delightfully. Thank you. Who are you telling next? There's Kiba and Shino, and then my father. I think I heard something about them coming back soon. Maybe you should prepare for that. She hesitated, but he didn't rush her. I don't know. I don't have room to think about that right now. She heard him give a breathy laugh above her head. You don't have time to think about much, but you still have to do it. True. That was very true. She didn't have the brain power, but somehow she had to think of a way to break the news to not just her father but to her teammates as well. And once that was done, there was still the question of what path she was actually going to choose, and then there was the question of everyone else in ninja community and what to tell them when they threatened to outcast her from her society. Too many questions, her brain was going to melt. But for right now, at least just for right now, she could keep them at bay. On the way to the ramen shop, the two passed the familiar shops and restaurants Hinata had known all her life. Many of the occupants in these shops and sidewalk cafes waved hello to the blue-eyed wonder, dragging her mother along behind her. Yumi was very well known in Konoha, for one reason or another. Yet, despite her unconventional popularity, she had a charm as magical as her father's. There was no way for anyone not to like the girl even if they looked down on her mother. When they walked by the school, the little girl holding Hinata's hand stopped in her tracks and turned toward the fenced bars. Hinata followed her gaze to the courtyard where young children played ninja tag and learned to jump off trees. Mama. Yumi's small voice drifted up to Hinata's ears and she cringed a little at the question she knew was going to come. The question rose every time they passed the ninja school. When I go to school. In 2 years. Hinata answered and stroked her daughter's hair. The children playing in the yard, some waved at them. That long time. Yumi groaned, waving at the kids older than her. She seemed to be trying to devise a plan in her head that would let her slip through the bars and join them. It seems far away now, but it won't be. Yumi pouted in a way she knew her mother was lying but didn't say anything to that. Hinata had to hide a laugh. 2 years never seemed that long. Right now, looking back, it seemed 4 years just flew by in a flash. How fast would it go by before she was meeting her daughter outside those very doors with a new, familiar forehead protector on her head? Or worse, how fast would it be before Hinata waited those agonizing nights waiting for her daughter to come home safely from a mission? Suddenly Hinata had to force herself to hide any emotions conflicting with the notion. Being the child of 2 ninjas, it was almost expected Yumi would follow in those footsteps. It was expected the little girl would start school to be a trained Kur and would graduate 6 years later and begin life as a new Konoha ninja. When Hinata was younger and she held the newborn in her arms, she made a wish that maybe her daughter wouldn't be so fascinated with that dangerous lifestyle. But so far, that didn't seem to be working. Know what kind of ramen you want to eat? Hinata said, changing the subject. She took the little girl's hand and waved goodbye to the children playing tag behind the fence. The next week she stayed with Naruto. It was much more comfortable than she would have thought. Instead of avoiding her, Naruto spent most of the time asking her all sorts of questions about the baby and her health. He even didn't let her so much as make her own food at times. She pretended to be annoyed with it at times but secretly loved being pampered so much. They didn't talk much about the current situation. They both seemed a little lost in playing house for the time being. Hinata couldn't decide if this was better or worse. She liked not trying to think up things to tell the remaining men in her life or prepare for any kind of storm that would be heading her way. Yet she couldn't help but feel they were avoiding an important subject. But Naruto seemed to be enjoying her company as much as she was, and who was she to rain on anyone's parade? She woke up alone, which was unusual since the past week she woke up tangled in sheets and limbs. She rubbed her eyes as she sat up in the bed. She was sure her hair was a bundle of tangles and knots. She needed a brush as soon as possible, among other things. She heard him moving around in the kitchen. She didn't think twice about it. She moved in search for him. She walked behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist. She snuggled into his back and breathed him in again. Her breakfast for the day made her very nauseated. She ducked into the bathroom, getting to the toilet in just enough time not to spill everything onto the floor. This was not how she wanted to start the day. When she washed up properly, she saw Naruto looking guilty outside. She walked up to him, placing a hand on his arm, careful not to get too close to whatever he was cooking. Didn't mean to make you sick, he said, scooping whatever he was making. Were you making? She looked at the contents in his pan. It made her a bit queasy to look at it, but she made the effort. It looked like eggs, even some sausage pieces in the pan along with some onions. Her heart sank and suddenly wanted to take it and gobble it all up in an instant. Naruto, were you making breakfast? She saw his face redden in a blush. Sort of, but you got. Sorry about that, guess I should have asked you what you can eat. She didn't have anything to say to that. She reached out, grabbed for him. She wrapped around him so tightly without warning. She swore she felt him stumble back a bit before regaining his balance. Hey, what's wrong? He asked into her head. Sorry, she said into his chest. Instead of the huff of a laugh from him, she just got a hard hug in return. They didn't move from their spot for some time. Instead, they held a conversation without moving. Are you going to go find Kiba and Shino? He asked, and she nuzzled herself into him a little more. She really didn't want to go looking for them, but true to her word, Sakura had gone out of her way to tell her. And if she knew Konoha, and she really did, a scandal was already in the making with the Konoha townspeople. Time to say goodbye to her time with Naruto for a bit. The sooner the better. I need to find them before they go looking for me at my house. What about you? I have things to do. I'm sure I've avoided Sakura enough for the week. That's right, Sakura. Ten mentioned something about seeing her and Naruto fighting, that's why she had come to see Hinata in the first place. Strange how such a topic went completely unnoticed in her small stay of bliss she had here. In the whole wonderful week she had lived in, Sakura didn't exist, her father didn't exist, no one existed but them. It was their own world. But that world was over now and it was back to the real world. Why were you fighting with Sakura that day? She asked, releasing herself from his GS. She looked into his eyes and received a sheepish double take. How did you know? Ten told me. She said she saw you, so what were you fighting about? This is how rumors start. He said, avoiding her gaze. She couldn't help but agree, but she also wanted to know why they were fighting in the first place. Sakura asked me how it went last night, and when I mentioned I had left, she jumped to conclusions. I just need to go and set the record straight, it will be fine. And what is the record? She asked. She still wasn't completely clear on it all. They hadn't really had a deep, meaningful, heartfelt discussion about their future. No, instead of being mature about the situation like the teenagers they were, they made up from the disagreements, several times, all week. There wasn't much room left for discussion. Thinking back, it may have been smarter to stop him from his advances and actually talk, but how could she possibly be expected to say stop when the said ninja had just gotten out of the shower and wore nothing but a towel and had proceeded kiss her gently awake from her nap? I'm not running away, Hinata. His reassuring voice snapped her out of her memories, and the blush faded from her face when she looked back into his reassuring blue eyes. She smiled at him shyly, which he responded with a small kiss on her forehead. It was all she needed to know. He wasn't leaving, he wasn't abandoning her, and he was in this with her no matter what choice she chose. He wasn't going to leave. He excused himself to get dressed and she did the same. Her clothes were dry now. Even if they did have a faint smell, it was better than running around in Naruto's clothes. Once she was dressed, she said goodbye to Naruto and they parted ways. Naruto made his way to the hospital and Hinata went to the best place she could think to find her teammates. As she headed toward the usual meeting place after mission, something bumped into her with almost enough force to knock her over completely. Staggering, she saw her assailant and her blood went cold. Hinata. Hanabi's dark hair flew widely in the winter wind. Her clothes were wet and muddy in spots, leaving Hinata to believe she was just coming back from training herself. Hanabi. Hinata stuttered, trying her best to smile at her sister. Just as she was about to jump into excuses, she relaxed. Hanabi didn't know she had been hiding at Sakura's and Naruto's place for the past week. Hanabi didn't know she was pregnant at the moment. All Hanabi knew was that the last time they saw each other was right before her mission. Where have you been? Hanabi asked, her eyes cold and suspicious. Hinata hated those eyes, they were like her father's. On a mission. No, you weren't. Hanabi cut her off with a stern voice. Sometimes she really resented Hanabi and her harshness. What? I just talked to Kiba and Shino, they asked me where you were. Something about you being sick. Yeah, I was. I was at Sakura's house, I was too sick to go on this mission. Please don't tell father, I didn't need him to see me as weak. She covered up as many holes in her story as she could. Hanabi seemed to consider this and then nodded in agreement. Be that as it may, now that they're home, you expected to be home too. I'll see you at home. Hanabi said and left. Had it been anyone else, Hinata would have been scared Hanabi would let something slip to her father, but being sisters they had an unspoken bond, and when the other needed it the other would act. As far as Hanabi knew, Hinata was sick and too scared to tell their father otherwise. Even if Hanabi suspected, she wouldn't ask. Not yet anyways. She continued her way to her teammates' meeting place in deep thought. She replayed how she would tell them in her head. No matter what she said to herself, nothing seemed right. They were doing their regular routine. Back from a mission, and already Kiba was itching to get back into the battlefield. It was always him who dragged them off to polish off anything they messed up with on the previous mission. Shino would go along with this, saying he had nothing better to do. Hinata, however, would disappear for the next few days, seeking some rest and relaxation at a certain blonde-haired, blue-eyed ninja's house. When she saw them pause, she made her presence known to them. They greeted her with smiles and worried eyes. Akamaru jumped on her and she instinctively reached to protect his giant paws from going near her stomach. Hoping the other boys didn't see this, she turned her attention to them quickly. How did it go? She asked, now stroking the calm dog behind his ears. It went. Kiba said, clearly interested in other things. What about you? Sakura said, you got sick. Are you okay? Was it really bad? Sort of, but I'm getting better now, she said, and they began to talk about what had happened on the mission. Hinata noticed quickly she was avoiding the subject, and if she didn't say anything soon it was bound to bite her pretty hard later on. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you. We ran into Hanabi this morning, Shino uncharacteristically spoke up. We asked where you were and she said she was under the impression you were with us. That's confusing us, Hinata. Kiba began to yell at Shino, something about an agreement not to mention that to her until she brought it up. But Hinata locked eyes with Shino, he was looking at her and through his glasses he knew something was wrong. He knew there was no sickness that kept her from the mission, he knew her very well, now he was just waiting for an explanation. It's alright, she started silencing Kiba. I need to tell you two anyway, I don't want you hearing it from anyone else. Hear what? Kiba asked, he looked skeptical and confused, Shino was just patiently waiting for her explanation. Sakura wasn't lying to you, I was sick. Very sick, I was throwing up and very fatigued, I was not fit for any mission. But you're better now, right? Kiba asked, she smiled lightly at him. Sweet Kiba, he only wanted her well-being, he didn't care if she lied to her family where she was, he didn't care what she said as long as she was okay. A little. I still throw up a bit, and I get really tired really easily, and, there was no easy way to say it. I'm going to tell you two something, but I need you to promise me something first. Promise what? Shino asked without hesitation. Promise me you won't hurt anyone. What? Just promise, she repeated more sternly than before. The both grumbled their agreement and she began to choose her words carefully. I can't go on missions for a while, I got pregnant. You got what? Kiba asked, his voice didn't sound as angry or shocked as she had expected. When she looked at them she saw he was looking at her confused. What did you get? He asked again. She looked between the two of them where Kiba looked confused, Shino looked stoic. He had heard every word she said, maybe he was still trying to digest it. I'm pregnant, she said louder. The reaction was what she expected. Complete silence followed by outrage. Kiba began to yell incoherent curse words while Shino remained as stoic as ever. While she waited for the outrage to calm down she wondered how her family would react if her team was acting this way. Maybe she really should anticipate the beginnings of a shinobi civil war. I'm gonna kill him. Kiba's shout broke her thoughts. She jumped up, wrapped her arms around his shoulders from behind just in time before he stormed off in the direction of her lover. No Kiba, you promised, she pleaded to the heaving young man. That bastard, not even the decency to use protection. It wasn't like that, you promised me. Hinata continued pleading, she looked at Shino for help who simply coughed his interruption, it was small but it was enough to stop the wild dog boy. Sometimes these things happen even when precaution is taken. Shino said, staring at a tree, he seemed to not even want to look at her. That hurt. She brushed it off, she would have her time with Shino alone if need be. But even still, Kiba argued, jumping out of Hinata's grasp. Shino ignored him and turned his attention to her. This explains why Hanabi had no clue what we were talking about. Though I would expect about now Hanabi would be mentioning something to Neji who would be getting suspicious of you. Hinata cringed at the thought. Who else knows? Shino continued, ignoring her obvious flinch at the sound of her family's names. Sakura and Naruto, she answered, looking at the ground. And us. Kiba finished, apparently calm from his previous rampage. And you. She agreed. And I would like that to continue until I tell others. She looked at them and then added, please. What has Naruto said on the subject? Shino asked again, ignoring anything she did or said. He said he wasn't going to run away. She repeated his words to her, even now they gave her comfort. At least, Shino said, not looking at her. What was that supposed to mean? Were they upset at him about this? This wasn't really the reaction she had hoped for. Please, don't be mad at him. It's just as much my fault as it is his. Kiba let out what sounded like something between a laugh and a growl. We're not mad, more shocked than anything else, I mean there are people we would expect this from. Hinata didn't know why, but when he said that Ino's face flew into her head. But you, not you. Maybe Naruto, if it was somebody else, but not with you. Kiba looked thoughtfully into the trees before continuing. If you have to quit for the time being, who's going to take your place? I don't know, I would think I have to talk to Tsunade about that as well. And then get reassigned to a desk job for the time being. Why did it sound so foreign saying it out loud? She knew this was coming. Have you talked to Tsunade about this? Shino asked, no, moving to stand next to her. No, not yet. If Shino thought she should have done or said something, or should be doing something, he kept quiet about it. Maybe he sensed her tension. So then what's your plan of action? Kiba let himself drop next to her. He seemed more relaxed than before. I don't know, I need to tell my father. You're really going to tell him? I always thought you'd just run away. Well, I would anyway. Hinata smiled and suppressed a laugh. She couldn't count how many times she had thought of that. Just getting her thing and running away from Konoha completely. If it wasn't for those damn ninja laws and the whole boyfriend being so devoted to Konoha, she may have just taken that option weeks ago. I was given some time, and then soon it will take action according to the law. The law? Kiba asked, just as confused as Naruto had been. Hinata is still living her father's house, Shino voiced over them. Therefore he is to know of all things that would interfere in her occupation as a ninja. Right. Hinata nodded, pulling her legs closer to her. The rest of the time with them was spent recapping the mission she missed out on and how Kiba had fallen in a ditch in the snow. By the time they were done, there was no talk of her pregnancy or Naruto or even her family. It was breath of fresh air she didn't even know she needed. On the way back to the town they walked like they used to. There was laughing and teasing, there was jokes and blushing between the three of them. When Akamaru barked, they looked up to see Kiba's team running toward him yelling. Duty calls. Kiba excused himself from his friends and off toward his team, who seemed to be yelling something about exploding tags and smoke bombs. Hinata laughed, but it was cut short when she caught sight of her cousin making his way toward them. Hinata. Neji looked as stoic as Shino, only much more threatening. Yes, Neji. Your father would like a word with you. My father. X. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.